So, a friend of mine and I had a discussion over the weekend about the COVID vaccine and his concerns, and it was part of a much larger conversation with several people who had a bunch of questions and a bunch of concerns and had, read some things, seen some videos, read some stuff on Facebook or whatever. And through the course of the discussion, we got back home, and he decided he was going to go get vaccinated. Not everybody that I talked to about it came to that same decision, but I wanted to take a minute to kind of talk about some of the things about why getting the vaccine makes sense to me and why I think it probably would make sense for most people. Um, Firstly, some of the things that you hear about, well, it was rushed, we did this in a hurry, it's using new technology. All of those things are basically true. We, meaning we, the country, the world, did rush on this vaccine or these vaccines, but they have now, been taken by literally, over a billion people, several billion people at this point around the world, and they're pretty well tested. Can there be some side effects from the vaccine? Absolutely. Those vary some from vaccine to vaccine. I had the Pfizer, which is what I think most of the places in my area are giving. I know there are some that are doing Moderna and some that are doing Johnson and Johnson, and there are some pluses and minuses to those. If you have questions about that, I encourage you to talk to your doctor and see if they have a recommendation about which one might be the best fit for you and your situation. But there are some things going on, some numbers being talked about how dangerous COVID is, what your chances of getting very sick from it are, what your chances of dying from it are, and how those chances change if you are vaccinated. The numbers that I have been seeing, which are from some local hospitals, I saw some recently from Vidant, and some from the UNC health systems, show that of the people who are currently hospitalized, you're looking at well over 90% of them are unvaccinated people. Now, that does mean that there's something in 5, 6, 7, 8% of the people who are hospitalized are people that were vaccinated. So clearly, being vaccinated is not absolute protection against being infected with COVID or being hospitalized with COVID or dying with COVID, but each one of those numbers gets smaller. Your chances of getting infected with COVID, if you aren't vaccinated at all, are maybe this. Your chances of getting infected with COVID if you are vaccinated are this. Your chances of being hospitalized are this, and your chances of dying are so small I can't hold my fingers that far apart. Does not mean it can't happen, but it does mean it's much less likely to happen. Another point about vaccination, and I ride motorcycles. I've got a lot of friends who are significantly younger and healthier than I am, who feel like, well, if I do get it, it'll be like a cold, it'll be like flu, I'll be fine. Why should I risk myself on this vaccine? The thing that I would say is, even if you are young and healthy, first off, congratulations. Second off, there are people around you who are not one or both of those things. For me personally, I have arthritis, and the form of arthritis that I have, the medication that I have to take for it suppresses my immune system, which means that I am at a higher risk from any kind of infection, including a COVID infection. Now, I don't look terribly infirm or like I'm about to fall over and die or anything. So maybe walking down the street, if you walked past me, you might not notice anything, about me. But there are people around you that maybe are undergoing cancer treatment, maybe have had an organ transplant, maybe you're taking a medicine similar to the one I take. There's a whole class of them that treat things like arthritis, Crohn's disease, IBS, a whole bunch of things that work by suppressing your immune system, because there's a whole host of diseases that are your body attacking itself. All of those people are at an enhanced risk from having a bad outcome from a COVID infection. When you are vaccinated, because you are far less likely to be giving your body a place that is a host for that virus, you are far less likely to walk around spreading the virus to other people, even if you feel fine. So from that standpoint, this isn't just about protecting yourself, or potentially even protecting those immediately around you. Although if you have a grandmother, or someone who's diabetic, or someone who's overweight, or someone with lung problems, all of those things can be serious, they call them comorbidities, which are things that make the disease much worse and much more likely to make you ill, and potentially die from it. So, even if you don't think you are at much of a risk, understand that you may be a risk to people around you. And part of the way that we protect people who either can't take this vaccine because of medical conditions, or have a lowered response to the vaccine, which is kind of what my case is, the way that you protect them is by not making yourself a harbor for that virus. Additionally, as we start to see these variants come out, the way that those variants happen is that when someone is infected, mutations occur constantly in everything in life. It's how we have cancer. It's how moths change their color over time. It's how birds' beaks change depending on the kind of food that they're eating and over time. But because vaccines and bacteria and things like that cycle so quickly through their life cycle, they produce millions and millions or billions and billions of cycles of life and death, in minutes or hours or days, whereas humans or birds or whatever take much, much longer. What happens is if a mutation occurs that happens to make the virus better able to survive, if it has a host that's not doing much to fight it, then it has a chance to reproduce. And now that person is walking around with a new variant of the virus that may be more spreadable or more dangerous or more resistant to vaccines or more resistant to the treatments that they would try to give you if you're in the hospital. All of these things kind of come together in this position that getting the vaccine rather, is good for you and good for the people around you that you care about, and good for the people around you that you don't even know and maybe don't even care about. There's some discussion about natural immunity and if you've had it before or not, and because there are asymptomatic cases, which means you have it but you don't even know you had it, or they're very mild cases, and your body does carry some natural defenses against getting reinfected. However, it's still possible to get reinfected, especially with a variant that you have not had. They're still doing studies on how people's immunity responds if they had it already and then they get vaccinated and then they're exposed, what happens. But the early information that I've seen from scientists indicates that if you have been infected previously, your response is even better if you then get vaccinated. So, again, to use that kind of hands apart, you may have this much resistance if you're already already have been infected and cleared it, but you get this much resistance if if you go ahead and get vaccinated. So it's not going to hurt you. It will only help, and it will help provide additional protection against the variants, like you hear about the Delta variant. There may be some new ones coming. We really don't know yet. On top of that, it's free. It's free if you have insurance, free if you don't have insurance, free if you've got Medicare, Medicaid, Medicare. It's most places have drop-in now. You can just go to CVS, Walgreens. You can make an appointment to go to the health department. They'll do it at Harris Teeter. I think they'll do it at Walmart even. It only takes a few minutes. It's a tiny injection. As far as side effects from the injection go, I can only speak directly to the Pfizer one because that's the one I had. It's a 2-dose one, like the Moderna. You have the doses about 3 weeks apart is the target that they give you. My reaction to the first one was I had a sore arm for a day or two. Just felt like, I'd gone out and done some yard work or maybe gotten punched in the shoulder or something like that. After the second shot, the day after the second shot, I felt kind of lousy. Spent most of the day, resting, had a little bit of fever, that kind of thing. But by the next day, it was gone and it was fine. Not a real big deal, but I just want to be honest with anyone watching this about, what I feel like you can expect. I recently had a booster shot at the advice of my doctor, a 3rd dose, because of my suppressed immune response. And the reaction to that one was just a sore shoulder, kind of like the first one. I got the shot and then went and motorcycled like crazy for 4 days with no problems. I know this is kind of a one-way conversation because of the medium of video, but if you have any questions or anything you'd like to explore or ask, I'll be happy. I'm not a scientist. I'm a computer nerd and motorcycle guy who has some pretty strong feelings about this, but I'll be glad to talk to you about it. Thanks, and I hope you have a great day.